Hello, my name is Derek Goring, and this is my video summary presentation. For an introduction, I want to provide a brief review of chapters 1 through 3, results from the study itself, and recommendations for the future. For a brief review of chapters 1 through 3, I'm going to start with the background, the organization, and how the study was conducted. For the background, the study was trying to determine if the 5th ASOS had efficient and good enough training to support their future ops based on what they were doing. The organization as a whole is called the 5th Air Support Operations Squadron, or the 5th ASOS. The 5th ASOS's primary responsibility is to call in close air support and drop bomb on enemy forces to protect friendly forces. After completing their training before arriving at the first duty station, airmen are sent through actual physical training, and they're sent through mental training. The physical training consists of a bunch of task evals to show which equipment they're good on and which equipment they're not good on. For the mental test, it's basically multiple choice questions called CDCs that help determine if they're ready intellectually wise. To conduct the study, I decided I would focus on personnel's personal opinions of their own training levels and actual hard facts on how they performed on their CDC and of course exams. One of the things I determined would be best to figure out a person's level of training is their own personal opinion of their training. To do this, I asked 40 members within my squadron 2 questions from a questionnaire. The 2 questions asked were, are you comfortable with your current level of training? And they also asked, do you think you and your peers would benefit from a standardized training program? Another part of this was I viewed CDC end of course exams from the last 5 years to basically provide an average of what people were scoring on their tests to show whether certain years had high scores or low scores, whether people from one flight were better trained than people from another flight. The results of this study have 2 very different views. From the questionnaire, it showed that the majority of the squadron felt they are not happy with their current level of training, meaning they would all like to have much better training. The second question, do you think you and your peers would benefit from a standardized training program? There's also another overwhelming majority saying yes, they think themselves and their peers would greatly benefit from having an organized, standardized training program that everyone can benefit from. The actual EOC exams were less conclusive in their results. The averages over the years vary between 79% and 83%. That being said, that's still a generally low score. For school-wise, it'd be around a B-. What you could focus on is the range between the high scores and the low scores. The majority of the years you have a 12% range between scores up to as high as a 24% range before scores. The thing to get from this is that it's pretty much random on what people are going to score in this test. There's no way to know certain people from certain flights are better trained, lesser trained. It's all just hearsay and hit or miss. The benefit from this is saying, hey, we don't actually know what's going to happen. Is this how we want things to keep on going? In the future, I do recommend this study being done again. It will show actual progression of whether members of 5th ASOS are becoming better trained, lesser trained, or if there's absolutely no changes whatsoever. I also recommend adding more things to the study, such as the task evals that I mentioned earlier, where along with taking personal opinion with general book knowledge, members can also be given task-oriented evaluations based on working with different pieces of equipment. This will give 3 major areas to determine if people think and actually are properly trained. In the future, I also recommend the study being done with more TACPs from the unit, so instead of plussing up your numbers from 40 TACPs to try and get 50, 60, even all the TACPs in a unit. Once you can actually start seeing changes within this one unit, I recommend that the same exact study be done with numerous other units. That will provide a baseline so that the career field as a whole can set the standard for itself, that it can have all individuals trained to this standard and then keep advancing from that standard. Another recommendation that I have is that even though this study took EOC scores from just the last 5 years, I recommend in years to come it's done from starting back 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and so on. That will continue to show the gradual progression or digression from positive to negative remarks on percentages. One final recommendation that I have for the future is make sure that this kind of case study is not just oriented towards new members of the unit. I recommend that the task evals, the EOC, and other general knowledge tests be given to members of all skill levels so that you can show what the skill is of every person in your unit. In conclusion, I can say that the case study as a whole, I believe, was very successful. It highlighted some problems in the unit, and I was able to provide recommendations for what I think the unit should do to keep advancing in the future. From this, I was able to give a brief review of chapters 1 through 3. I was able to give you the actual results of the study, and I was able to follow that up with recommendations for the future. This has been a video summary presentation for my senior project by Derek Gorham.